In 2022, after 2 years of delays, SeaWorld Orlando opened Icebreaker, a multi-launching family roller coaster by Premier Rides. Well, without missing a beat, the park was at it again, working on a new project set to open in 2023. There were rumors about this new roller coaster that spread around, saying it was going to be a new coaster model by B&M, dubbed the Surf Coaster. The original synopsis was this roller coaster is going to be the rebirth of the stand-up roller coaster. Well, later in 2022, SeaWorld announced Pipeline the Surf Coaster. This ride is the evolution of the traditional stand-up coaster. The biggest change is instead of the seats being stationary, they will now bob up and down as you traverse the ride layout. Pipeline the Surf Coaster has a max height of 110 feet, 2,950 feet of track, a max speed of 60 miles per hour, which is obtained by an LSM launch. The ride also features one inversion, a giant corkscrew element. Before we hit the waves of this new review, please do me a favor by clicking on that like button, and if you are new to my channel, love roller coasters and SeaWorld, make sure you subscribe. Presentation. Pipeline the Surf Coaster is located right along the lake on the other side of the nighttime stadium. The ride borders right up to the parking lot, but when you're on the roller coaster, there's really only a moment or two where you'll be actively looking at the parking lot. The ride's layout keeps you over the water or looking toward the lake, so you never feel like this would be a quote-unquote parking lot roller coaster. The color scheme is pretty nice looking. It's an aqua blue color with white supports. The trains are the real highlight, as it is themed to look like a surfboard. Unlike the previous stand-up models, these trains are very open, meaning that you can lift off the floor and swing your legs around at certain parts of the ride. The signage, station, and queue area is themed to a surf shack of sorts. There's a lot of new foliage that has been planted, so give it a couple more years and Pipeline will look even better. Pipeline is very well presented, enough to earn an 8 rating in this category. Ride intensity. After rolling out of the station, Pipeline takes a brief pause before launching you to the max speed of 60 miles per hour. The launch track features a bunny hill, which provides a nice pop of airtime. The ride flies up into the highest point of the attraction, a giant 180-degree turnaround. The coaster dives down and flies right back up into a banked airtime hill. This moment will provide some unexpected floater airtime and sets the pace for what this roller coaster is all about. The ride then enters into its only inversion, a giant corkscrew. The ride then pops back up into a brief moment of airtime that leads into a downward 270-degree helix. Pipeline does another banked turnaround that sets us up for another banked airtime hill that leads into another banked turnaround, followed by yet another banked airtime hill. The ride performs a low to the ground turnaround that leads into the brake run. Unlike the past stand-up roller coasters, which focused mostly on positive G-forces and inversions, Pipeline is all about that airtime and banked turns. There are a few moments of strong G-forces, but nowhere near the same intensity that you would find on a traditional looping roller coaster. You will feel the positive G-forces when you pop up into that first turnaround and just prior to entering the giant corkscrew. Also, let's not forget about the launch. I was pretty surprised how intense this launch is. I think it's because you're in a stand-up position, you feel more of the positive G's pressing against your chest. I think a score of 7.5 for the ride intensity seems about right. As I said already, there are a few moments of intensity, but nothing that will cause a gray out or discomfort like the old stand-up coasters would. Fun factor. As you might have noticed already, I will continue to compare Pipeline the Surf Coaster to the past stand-up roller coasters because this is basically the continuation of that model. With that said, Pipeline is a night and day improvement over this old model. Pipeline is a lot more comfortable, though it does have its flaws, still better than the ball-busting, jello leg-inducing design of the old model. The layout is also a major improvement, putting more focus on the airtime than strong positive G-forces. With that said, I am going to award Pipeline a score of 9 for the fun factor. The main reason that is holding this back from a perfect 10 score is going to be the restraints. Yes, the vest restraints are so much better than the old models, but these vest restraints are also pretty tight. During some of the airtime moments, the vest straps can dig into your collarbone. I know that some have even complained of bruising after taking Pipeline for a few rides in one day. As for me, I didn't start to notice the issues with the restraints until about my third ride on the roller coaster. I was so preoccupied with the fun pops of airtime that I didn't even notice the discomfort the strap was creating. As for the ride operations, being a newer coaster, Pipeline would go down periodically throughout the day. On my first day of the trip, Pipeline stopped loading one of the trains, which I'm not sure why, but was able to keep cycling both trains. When the ride was loading both trains, there were times where they sent the trains within 80 to 90 seconds, but unfortunately, guests who had issues fitting into the vest straps would slow down operations, so sometimes it would take like 3 to 5 minutes to get that train out of the station. The park has been putting up more signage at the entrance of the ride, encouraging guests to check out the test seat before getting into line. So if the ride was sending those trains about 90 seconds, this roller coaster has the capability of servicing about 960 guests an hour because each train does hold a total of 24 passengers. Originality. It may look and function like a traditional stand-up coaster, but with a free-moving seats that can bob up and down. Which, speaking of that, if you are a little bit taller, you won't get as much movement, but you still get a little bit, which is nice during those airtime moments, and that's the reason why the straps will actually dig more into your collarbone. Because when you max out the height of that seat, it really starts pushing down, so somebody who's a little bit shorter, they might get a little bit better ride experience. There is no other roller coaster that I know that allows your seat to move like this, which is very interesting. As for B&M, Pipeline was really pushing the boundaries. First, the layout is unlike their past models, focusing more on twists and bends instead of their staple inversions. Using an LSM launch, though nothing new for a roller coaster, it's a rarity for this manufacturer. Plus, instead of being a traditional straightforward launch, Pipeline features a fun little bunny hill midway through that launch. I have zero qualms giving this roller coaster a perfect score for originality. For now, Pipeline is a one-of-a-kind experience only found at SeaWorld Orlando. Ride smoothness. I really wanted to give this category a 10, but after a few rides, it was apparent that this roller coaster has a little rattle that pops up throughout the ride. It's nothing major, but it is apparent, which is why I dropped my score down to a 9.5. Again, with the vest restraints, I usually don't count that against this category, but they are pretty restrictive and even painful for some riders. As for the rattle though, it's probably because of these newer style trains and also being in that stand-up position, though I know B&M is known to get rattles on the roller coasters occasionally, but more or less it's not too bad, as why I say a 9.5. Alright, the final technical score comes to 8.8. Considering this is a prototype of sorts, I think SeaWorld has a hit on their hands. Pipeline the Surf Coaster is an excellent starting point for the new surf coaster model by B&M. I would only assume that this manufacturer will continue to improve on this ride type and try more exciting elements to enhance that ride experience. My personal score is going to be an 8. This is a solid roller coaster that I enjoy riding multiple times a day. Though, as I said earlier in this review, the more you ride it, the more that the restraints start to bother me, so there is a cap to how many times I'll strap into this roller coaster in one day. Pipeline the Surf Coaster fits well into SeaWorld's coaster lineup, which is something I was a little concerned about prior to riding. Now that I've ridden it a few times, I can see how it's a different ride experience from Icebreaker, Mako, or Kraken. When this attraction was first announced, I wasn't really excited for it, but now that I've finally been on Pipeline, I'm starting to see what all the fuss is about. Now, as where I would rank this attraction with all the other roller coasters in the park, I'll save that for a later discussion, but note that Pipeline is a solid roller coaster that merits a visit to SeaWorld Orlando. Well, thank you for watching today's review. For those who have been on Pipeline, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I think this is just the beginning for the surf coaster model, and I look forward to more crazier designs by B&M. Well, until next time, this is Extreme Thrills.